What's up, y'all? This is Zeno. Welcome to this video where I'm going to be demonstrating the complete disassembly and cleaning of my Smith Wesson M&P 9mm. First of all, let's go ahead and field strip the gun. This has already been safety checked. So we have our magazine, rack our slide back. We're going to take down our sear deactivation lever, takedown lever, disassemble the gun. There's our spring. We're also going to go ahead and remove our barrel, which we're not going to do anything with for this particular video. We now have our upper slide, which we will place aside for a moment, and we will concentrate right now on disassembling the lower. This, in my opinion, just makes the working on the gun a little easier without the ergonomic, especially if you use a large one like I do, without the ergonomic back strap on it, the gun has the ability to lay flat much easier. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove our takedown lever. If you just pull on it and move it around, it'll just pop right out. There's a small little spring clip in there that will hold it in place, but you can just pull it right out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove a series of 3 pins, and this will be these 2 roll pins, here and here, along with this small trigger pin right here. These 2 we're going to need to pop out with a hammer. So I'm just going to do a roll of tape. This way I can place the gun down, elevated from the surface, and drive the roll pins through. I am going to use a Glock tool. You can use punches and stuff. I just don't happen to have the exact size that I need for that. I always just use my Glock tool anyway. Using a Glock tool on a Smith & Wesson, I know. Just going to go ahead and give these a couple good whacks. Just drive it straight through. There it is. Now also the rear one. You can just push this straight out with a Glock tool or with a punch. We'll just push straight out. It only goes one way because it's got a little head on it. So, okay, now we can go ahead and remove our locking block and sear housing block assembly. I'm just going to use a flat blade screwdriver to do this. The one thing you want to be careful of is when you get this up a little bit, you can just rock this out. The ejector is going to want to pop out on you, so you just want to be careful of that. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the ejector now, so I don't have to worry about it later. There we go. This is the sear housing block assembly, and this includes the sear. We're going to clean this, but I'm not going to disassemble it. Okay? Now that we have this also disassembled, we can go ahead and pry this up too, just a few little twists. We'll get this up. You got to be real careful though. There's a spring, so I'm going to put my hand over it so I don't lose the spring as I do this. Okay, there we go. And there's a little spring that I was talking about. Okay, you don't want that to go careening off into La La Land. It's the little spring that holds this into place, that kind of locks that into place. So this is the locking block. Okay. We can now grab the trigger assembly and pull it right out, just like so. Okay, and this also has our magazine release lever. This is ambidextrous, so you can put this either way. And then we also have our trigger assembly, including our trigger spring. So keeping this stuff kind of together so we know how it goes in and going to eventually come back, or came out, so eventually go back in. So now we're going to go ahead and clean these areas. You can see the kind of crudge that builds up on these parts as you've used the gun for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and clean a few of these areas. And for that, I'm going to use the best cleaning solution known to man, Ballistol. I have it in a pour bottle and also in a small aerosol can. For this I'm just going to use an aerosol. And there we go. And I'm just going to get in there and kind of clean out these areas. You can see how much gook builds up there. This is going to be pretty gooky. If you take your sear deactivation lever and put it back up, you can kind of move the sear up and down with your finger. Remember, a clean gun is a happy gun. There's a spring in here, so be careful you don't pry that out by accident. This stuff in here, the trigger assembly, it gets really, really dirty, especially if you shoot your gun a lot. Now the bottle style that we're using acts as both a lubricant and a cleaner, so we're accomplishing kind of two things at once here, with both cleaning and lubricating. So you can see that buildup that takes place. I try to get as much as you can. Don't leave any. Don't lubricate these pieces up too much. Okay, you want to wipe off the excess because lubrication will attract gunk. It's wet. Stuff will stick to it when it's wet. Okay, so now we're all finished with our cleaning, and we can go ahead and begin to reassemble the gun, basically just kind of in the reverse order that it came apart. Not exactly, but sort of. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our sear housing block assembly, and we're going to go ahead and put our extractor back on it. You can see the little cutout there that goes right over that, just like that. We're going to go ahead and slide this back in. There's a couple of like small guide channels that it will get pushed back into. I'm trying to do as much of this on camera as I can, but there we go. Sometimes I have to pick it up and look at it. So you just push that back down with your finger, just like that. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and put our trigger assembly back together. You just want to make sure that your trigger spring and everything are in the right place. This kind of goes in like that. There we go. So how this goes is this little piece here that sticks out the back here needs to slide into a little recess in the housing block assembly. So what you have to do is you have to go in like this. So you got to come in and then down. So in like that, and then just guide the trigger in just like that. There we go. See? Worked. You do want to be careful too that the trigger spring doesn't pop off. I've had that happen a couple of times. So now we can go ahead and put our locking block in place. And again, you want to make sure that that spring is in there. Okay. So I'm going to push this down slightly. Now there's a spring underneath here. You might not be able to see it. See if I can pry it up again. Okay, there's a spring, little piece that's part of the trigger assembly right there. It fits into a groove on the bottom of this block assembly. So you just want to make sure that everything's lining up right and that that sits down there nice and good. Okay? So everything's looking real good so far. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to place this pin back through here. This is a little bit of a pain in the butt just because you got to kind of jimmy it through to try to get it to go. Okay, so you're kind of lining up a series of holes all the way across and then trying to slide your pin through. One of the holes you have to pass through is the actual trigger spring. I don't know how much of this you can really see. I'll kind of come around here a little bit. Here we go. So this trigger spring right here, you have to pass through that. Now I've put the pin about halfway through the gun, so it's now sitting in between this little void right here. So it stops right about there, and now you got to bring that circle end of the spring up into there and then continue to pass this pin all the way through. Now that's a little tough because the spring obviously has to stretch a little bit. The best way I found to do it is to push on the outer side of that loop at the end of the spring with a punch and try to kind of jimmy it through. And like I said, oops, didn't get it. There really is no easy way of doing this. Of course, having said that, somebody would probably go, dude, there's a total easy way to do that. You just press this button and it just does it. Stretch it a little bit. Bingo. Got it. So, the spring is now around up here. That's what the upper end of the spring anchors to. And then as you pull the trigger, it elongates that spring. Okay, so now that we have all that back together, the only thing we need to do is apply our pins. And for that, I still use this just to stabilize the gun. Again, we're going to go in from the same side we pounded through. We're going to go that same way. I'm just checking my pins. I want to put them back in the same way they came out. You can tell which end of the pin has been hammered just by looking at it. It'll be a little mushroomed out. Again, these are the same size pins, so you don't have to worry about which one goes where. So just pound that back in, just like that. This one's going to be a little bit tougher, just like it was taken out. Take my Glock tool real quick, and I'm just going to set these in a little bit. In just a smidge too. That's good. Okay. So we go ahead and replace our takedown lever. Oops. There we go. And put our back strap back on. And our tool. Okay, let's move on to the upper and how we're going to do this. Now basically there's two important things that you want to do. Number one is going to be the ejector, and number two is to get the firing pin, the striker, out and clean all that. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to drive this pin out of the upper there, and for that I just use my drift punch and a hammer. You want to give it a good whack. I'm using here a 1/16 pin punch. So we're going to put our punch and give it a good whack. There we go. I think one more will get it. There we got it. Okay, now the pin is out. Okay, there's the pin. When I pull this up, this is spring loaded. Okay, so you can pull this out, and then there's that spring. I'm just going to take it out here. Okay. So now if you drive that thing out, that pin out, and then you just pull the pin punch out, this thing's going to go boink, and it's going to fly out. It's not a huge amount of pressure, but it's enough to give you a headache. Okay, so we've now got that out. Now, to get the firing pin, the striker, out is very similar to doing any other kind of gun like a Glock or something like that. It's a very similar process. If you've done that, this is going to be second nature to you. I use a Glock tool for this just because it's easy. So you're going to push against the striker pin. Basically what you're going for is that little white, make sure you can see this, right here, this little white piece of plastic. So you have the striker basically here, and right down there you have a little white piece of plastic. What we're doing is getting this above that, and then we're going to push down on that white piece of plastic. Okay? And that will take the pressure off the back plate. There we go. Okay? Now, this won't come out until you push that. Push it down, it'll snap back out. You can slide the whole striker pin assembly right out. There it is. Okay? Now, you can take this apart. To do that, you're going to need to remove your sight. Remove the sight, and there'll be a spring back here, and you can remove this whole thing. I'm not going to, for the purposes of just cleaning the gun. The big thing is that you just get this, and then the chamber that it sits in. So, again, we're doing this for the purposes of really just cleaning. The big thing is that you just get in here and clean it up a little bit. I don't really worry too much about disassembling the whole thing. You're going to get it pretty much clean enough just by doing that. So I'm going to get in here with a little bit of a cotton swab, clean up some of the little areas there, and that should be nice and clean. Okay, do the same thing here, just kind of wipe that down. This guy right here is going to be kind of gunky. So this is right next to where the round goes off. So this is going to be gunky. If you don't do this for a while, you're going to have a lot of buildup on this thing right here. Get a cotton swab in there too. There we go. Remember, wipe off the excess. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and clean the inside of the where the firing pin, the striker pin goes. And to do that, I'm pretty much just going to use a cotton swab. The big thing is, just like with the other parts, is you want to make sure that it isn't wet with lubricant. There's no reason for it to be wet. Okay, you're not doing yourselves any favor by over lubricating anything. Okay, so now we can go ahead and reassemble this. We're just going to pop our striker back in. We're going to push down that so it will allow it to pop in there. Okay, push on that so it sets in. And now we're just going to basically just do the exact same thing in reverse. Pop this down, push that in, and we're good to go. Okay? So, now we're going to put our little injector back in. This is actually upside down. This, there we go. I typically keep my eye on the orientation of this stuff, so it probably doesn't really matter how you put that in there, but I make sure I put it in the same way I take it out. So this is going to just kind of go in there and then kind of swing around a little bit. There we go. And then you just want to hold it down with your thumb. Put in your roll pin. There we go. Just like that. Actually, I'm going to get started first. There we go. Now hold this down with your thumb so you can line up the holes. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and set it. And there we go. So that is all done. Alright, our gun is now ready for reassembly. It's all nice and clean. So let's bring all of our parts back on board. Go ahead and reassemble our gun. Okay, passed an initial test, but we won't won't know for sure until we throw a few rounds through her. So we're going to get some dummy rounds. We're just using snap caps. And we want to make sure that everything is going to be working properly, that it's going to feed properly, that it's not going to get jammed up. And then the next time we shoot this, hopefully we will be able to Okay, that was a successful test. Let's do one more. Alright, I'm really going to rack her back once. Ooh, hey, shootsy scores right in the coffee cup. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to throw up pretty good. So I'd say that's a successful test. So there you go. Complete disassembly and reassembly of your Smith Wesson M&P 9mm. Hope you enjoyed. Take it easy.